Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my TFT patch note rundown for 9.16b. So, usually what ends up happening is Riot Games releases these the day of because they're considered hotfix patches, which means I pretty much get to figure out what's happening while I'm playing the game while waiting for people to come in. I've heard a little bit that they ended up buffing demons this patch. I don't know too much outside of that. On top of that, I think the current meta is it's pretty good. I think the current meta is in the spot where almost everything is viable at the top 4, but I think it gets really bad when it gets into top 4. So I think top 4 is kind of like a huge amount of noble players and then brawler void players, whether it's assassin or sorcerer version, and then those are like pretty much the only two comps that hit first place. I understand the last game I played before this video or before this moment, I won with demon shapeshifters. I don't know if I think I just got pretty lucky, but generally speaking, 9 out of 10 games before this patch were won with those two compositions. So I think everything's good up until like the top 4, and like generally speaking, the way you want this game to work is you want to reward people to play all kinds of stuff depending on what they find. So as long as you're able to go wide and play the things that you find, like that's the kind of meta I want to exist in the game. I think they have a good thing about that kind of like a good thing going with that meta kind of in the mid game, but definitely in the late game it kind of peters off into 1, 2, or 3 like top tier comps. So anyways, let's keep reading. Welcome to patch whatever 9.16b notes. In true B-side faction, the patch will be fairly light. Yeah, we'll see. I'll still make it 20 minutes. The biggest change is the in-game matchmaking, which will prevent you from seeing the same opponent too often. The change will be improvement on past versions, but we're not completely happy with the system. We'll continue to tinker forward. For gameplay, the meta is in a pretty good spot following the encouragement of our Hex Tech friends, and we're going to give out a small bump to outliers. Okay, cool. Right here. So right now, that's the current matchmaking bug, where you hit the same person, you like get paired up with a buddy, and you have 2 buddies the whole game. You get 2, and then you just hit them nonstop every like other turn. So they made initially with last patch, they made the matchmaking so you couldn't hit the same person twice in a row. And to be fair, I do not think I've hit the same person twice in a row in an entire week's worth of games. Actually, like now that I think about it, I don't even remember. So they did a good job there, which was one of the biggest problems. But now you get matched up in kind of A B fashion, and it's terrible. Like it's pretty bad, especially if one of your buddies is like the rank 1 player. Like, then you just get creamed like over and over again. And so it's not very fair, and I'm hoping they fix that. And they said they were going to fix that this patch as well. Let's keep going. So first of all, brawler nerfs. Okay, brawlers give us disgusting amount of health, and the 2 front lines that are available in this game are brawlers and knights, or the 2 basic front line. You could typically run brawlers and knights as a front line for any kind of composition, you know, because they're the premier frontline synergies. The thing about brawlers is, and what I think is actually problematic, is brawlers are notoriously really strong when they have very, very powerful base damage on their units. So brawlers want to be beefy boys. They're like really, really big. They realistically don't have a lot of utility outside of Cho'Gath, but they're really, really big in terms of health, and they just sit there and they annoy you with huge amounts of flat health. That means they're susceptible to stuff like Morello's and red buff, but it means that you're going to be pissed while you're trying to kill them because they have so much flat health. On the other side of the coin, you have knights, which block flat amounts of damage. Really good against things that are doing like small amounts of damage at once, like Kennen ulti, MF ulti, maybe Shift procs. And so they're both good at different things. But I think brawlers generally, when they're really strong, like right now they're pretty strong, is when the base damage values are really, really powerful. Like when Cho'Gath has too much base damage, it ends up crushing people, or when Volibear was too easy to get like as a carry. So if any of the brawlers do like too much damage, I think it's a problem. Currently, I think Vi is actually a really big outlier. She does too much damage. The way that I see Vi is that she's like kind of a melee Asol. And if you look at her numbers, she does like the same damage as Asol, minus like 50 damage, and it always hits the farthest unit. It'll always hit multiple targets. You get it off every single time, and sometimes you get multiple ults off. So I think right now, if they're looking to nerf something that's not just the bonus health, I think that Vi is something that they really should be looking at. And they'll probably end up nerfing her later down here anyways. But I'm not too opposed, I guess, to brawler nerfs. I just want to say that like right now the meta is dominated by nobles and brawlers, right? Late game. So like if brawlers get nerfed, like nobles get better. And so maybe the idea is you nerf both of them, right? But let's keep going. Draven nerf. So they nerfed Draven and Jinx. I think right now Draven and Jinx are like super god mode late game carries. And they're quite problematic. So Draven got nerfed a little bit. Doesn't seem to be that big. Jinx got nerfed. So it's only 5 and 50. That doesn't seem like it'll matter. Draven's still going to be insanely good. Jinx is actually, in my opinion, a bigger problem than Draven, because Jinx, I think, can be slotted in without any synergies. Draven, usually you want the Imperial, you want like 2 Imperials, you want 3 Blade Masters, and getting that kind of takes a while. Like your mid game is maybe a little bit sloppy. Jinx is like, well, if I have anything, I can throw Jinx in, and she might be good. She's still going to be good, you know? And I think that, like, hopefully, yeah, they ended up nerfing her by quite a bit. The attack speed got nerfed by 0.15, 0.2 on her first thing, and her rocket damage got nerfed by 25. She's still going to be good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the idea is that you nerf these 4-star carries so much that they can't be played, because as soon as this happens, mages start coming back up, right? But I think Draven got nerfed a lot less than Jinx. And maybe Jinx deserved that, right? Because it's easier to fit in the comps, but I think both of these champions still going to be very good. And I want to talk about more about like what these nerfs do, but let's see everything that gets nerfed as well. Kayle shield duration went down by 0.5 and 1 second at level 2 and 3. Kayle's broken. Like, she's super good. Any kind of nerfs to Kayle, I'm super down for. The idea of damage immunity is something that is crazy for a game to have. So they nerfed Kayle before with her mana. They're nerfing her again with their shield duration. I think great. Keep it up. Kayle's just beast. No one's getting to the Kayle 3. I've never seen one in my life. But the Kayle 2 is the thing that matters. 0.5 seconds. Realize that's 0.5 seconds on 2 different targets. So actually a decent nerf. Like not that bad. More than you would expect. Lucian, they ended up nerfing 50 damage off his first ability, 25 off his second, and 0 off his third. You know what's so funny about this? When Lucian first got buffed, long time ago, I was just like, why did they give Lucian the largest numbers buff ever in the game? So he had a 95 damage buff at his level 1 way far back ago. And now they're reverting it because they're like, well, I guess Lucian's too good of a unit. Where it's like, yes, Lucian's like the best noble in the game. At least early game, Lucian's like hard carries your noble lineup and any gunslinger lineup because it does so much damage. I'm down for Lucian nerfs. Really strong unit. Like I think it's like the best tier 2 unit right now. Alongside what, like a good Ahri and maybe like a stacked Pike. So I think, yeah, he probably needed nerfs for a while, especially with nobles being so prevalent. Vi nerfs, thank God. I think she could use any amount of nerfs. So what did they end up nerfing her? 25 mana up and 25 mana max means that they want her to ult once, but they don't want her to ult more than once. Like it has to be effort for you to get multiple ultis off of Vi. I'm not for any nerfs, but I do think that this isn't enough for the champion because the problem, in my opinion, is just her base damage is too high, and when you're playing against like Vi plus the rest of the brawlers, which do a lot of base damage and are tanky, that becomes a really big issue when you don't have to rely on like a back line to be able to do damage for you. So I think this is any nerf to Vi is good in my book. I think that she probably deserved base damage nerfs. Champion buffs. Okay, Aatrox got buffed by nothing because he got. Wait, what? I thought they buffed demons. I was told they. Okay, he got 50 at rank 1, 0 at rank 2, which is what matters because you very rarely get rank 3, and 50 at rank 3, which essentially means this is a net neutral buff. For it, Aatrox 1 got buffed, but you're never putting an Aatrox 1 in, except for like the very first like stage 2. Okay, Anivia got buffed by 50 health. Cool. Not very relevant. Same with the Aatrox one. Gnar got buffed by what? Why did he get 40 AD? $20 AD level 1, 40 AD level 2. Level 3 is impossible. Like, you're never gonna hit this. He got 40 AD. That's crazy. So Nara is kind of a legitimate carry threat with 100 bonus AD on transform. So stacking stuff like last game I put Shiv and like PD and stuff on Nar. Nar's gonna do a lot of damage with items. More than I expected. This is actually a pretty big buff. For if you want to think about what 40 AD is in this game, you're essentially giving Nar 2 BF swords worth of AD on transform. Which if you have a Nar 2, you're probably gonna get the transform off every time. So that's quite powerful. Really big buff for a unit I thought was still pretty good. MF ability damage goes up, and up, or up and even. I guess that's okay because you will play rank 1 MF sometimes, so an extra like this seems like 11% damage buff is nice. The biggest problem with MF is just the targeting. Like I don't care about the damage. This number could add to 0, and sometimes you still get pissed off because MF targeting is different than a lot of units in the game. So when you think of cone units like or spell damage, like linear stuff, you think like ASOL. ASOL AI works that it targets the furthest unit away. So when you're playing against ASOL and you see an ASOL stacked in like a corner, you can pull one of your units to the very far edge of the other corner and force the ASOL to get an optimal ult. But then the ASOL player knows that, so they can position around it. So there's counterplay and there's consistency, both for the player playing against ASOL and the player playing with ASOL. With MF, the way MF's ulti works is it hits the target she autos. So if the first unit at the very beginning dies, and then she autos an assassin to the left of her, she'll just ulti the assassin, and there probably is nothing there on the side. So I think right now MF's biggest problem is consistency. I'm okay with I'm okay with other stuff. I just think the consistency is what matters. Ryan Moore said they have no intention of fixing MS AI because variance creates memories and exciting stories. I don't know if that's what he said, but I do think that there should be a way, like maybe the AI isn't the same as ASOL, but I think that like consistency is a big deal especially when it comes to stuff like 5 cost units, which should be relatively powerful. Yeah, I think this is nice, but and it's not like MF damage is bad. Like when I use MF, I feel pretty good when she ultis off in the direction that I want her to in a reasonable amount of time. But it's when I get those really weird games where I just randomly ults the assassin to the side or something that I feel pretty bad about using the unit, and I feel punished not due to the unit strength but due to the unit AI. So that's something that I kind of wanted to look at. Morgana, she got 10 more damage and her 10 more armor, and her damage got decreased by 25. So it's 50. It takes twice. This is just a buff for the unit, right? So most of the times this is gonna be a buff. When I play Morgana, I will never get double ticks of Morgulti, ever. So unless I'm playing her at the very beginning, or if I have maybe a GA on her, for the most part, you're only gonna get 1 tick, and having 10 more armor means that she's a lot more frontlineable. Because in demon comps, you don't really have much to frontline, right? You have your Aatrox with GA and your Morgana with GA, and maybe you get your Swain with GA as well. But the reason why they have GA is because they're relatively squishy units, and demons in general are relatively squishy units. And so being less GA reliant, in my opinion, is a better thing. So I like the armor. I think it's good. Especially in demon comps where I feel like I'm lacking the front line a lot of times. Shen got 50 health buff. That's nice. I think Shen 2 is actually a great unit. Individually, it's like 100 AD on the unit when you have like 1 ninja, works great with early blade masters. Super good individual unit that in the mid game they could transition off of later into Yasuo. I like Shen a lot. I think like maybe he needed a little bit of buffs, but I think Shen's actually pretty good. Very unique. Very unique unit. Oh, they nerfed Ludens. Okay, Ludens. I'm okay with Ludens before it like hard stacked. It ended up stacking last patch, and I don't know if they intended that, but I've been seeing a couple games where I see double Ludens on like Ahri or double Ludens on whatchamacallit, Lucian, and it's getting pretty obnoxious. Ludens is definitely the premier item, especially after Shiv ended up getting nerfed. Ludens will hard carry you to the early mid game and kind of do fairly well late game too. Because the biggest thing about Ludens is it gives you both AP and max mana, or like flat mana. And flat mana will let you ulti on your units a lot quicker. So it's a pretty good item throughout the entirety of the game, but especially through mid game. This on top of the Lucian nerfs up here make it so Lucian 1 is definitely a little bit weaker, and Lucian 2 is weaker as well. You can't just get a Lucian 2 with the Ludens and expect to win all of stage 3 anymore. Let's talk a little bit about the meta before I end this. So remember when I said at the very beginning of the video, I think late game it's like nobles and brawlers, and you see a lot of this situation. You end up seeing that like they nerfed nobles, sure, but it's still going to be insanely good late game. And I think right now, like you see these nerfs don't apply to nobles. Like right now, the best noble carry, the most consistent noble carry right now is Gameplank. So you'll see a lot of people get like Draven Gameplank, but the Gameplank has more items than the Draven, or like Yasuo carry with nobles, because GP is a 3 cost, super consistent to get every game, and Yasuo is like ultra best Blade Master at the very end. So like you're seeing a lot of these situations where like sure they nerfed these, but I still feel like nobles is going to be really, really good, and nobles is probably going to be the best comp at the very end of the day anyways. Maybe to be honest, maybe that's okay. But for me personally, like I don't mind if nobles at the very, very high end, like let's say you hit every single 2-star unit in the noble composition with items, you are pretty much guaranteed to win like 80-90% of the time. That might be okay for me as long as there's better, as long as there's ways to be able to work around and play like multiple comps. I'm okay to have like a very, very dominant top tier comp if it's hard to get there because they nerfed the mid game for like a lot of nobles, right? And they buffed the mid game for some of the other stuff. But I think right now, like nobles, the way nobles work is that they have a spike early game when you get like the Garen, the Lucian, the Vi, the Fiora, or sorry, the Vayne, the Fiora. The buff is super powerful early, and then in late game, it's like the best thing as well. So the power trough is in the middle. The mid game is where nobles tend to lose a lot of their health when they're holding units and they're waiting for the kill, and like their kind of comp doesn't really come out well. I think that if you want to hit nobles, you want to make it so like in that mid game that they're extra susceptible to other things, whether they're direct counters or certain other things. I think right now maybe their mid game isn't as susceptible as I'd like. Like I don't really see much. Like I see like nerfs like their direct counters, and so I'm like a little bit worried about noble strength. But I guess we'll see when we play more of the game. I think right now there isn't a big enough power trough for nobles in the mid game, and I think maybe they're too consistent to get on a game by game basis. And obviously the game kind of corrects itself. Like there's 4 people going nobles, probably only 2 people end up top 4, but it still may be frustrating to consistently look for that 2, you know. So yeah, I don't necessarily know if they're able to nerf nobles enough. I'm kind of hoping, or I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of a nerf. The way that I see the noble buff actually is I think it does too much. I don't think a buff should give both armor and MR. I think that's actually insane. So when you played Dota Auto Chess, the buff gave health regen. The Goblin buff, which is pretty much identical, gave a lot of armor and a lot of health regen, but no MR. So like I think that in the future, like fixing nobles could be as easy as just make it so they're very good against one type of damage source. Like they're super good. They give 100 armor, so they're really, really good against like assassins, physical damage, so like gunslingers. But they're bad against mages. They either give half the bonus or almost no bonus. I think that would help out a lot because then they would just be like, well, you know, if there's 4 noble players in game, hey, look, I'm running 6 mages. I guess they're dead. It's probably something they're gonna have to think about and do later in the future because I think right now, like the counterplay in nobles is hope they don't get killed too, and I don't necessarily think that that's a great way to counterplay it. That was how it was before, and they sucked. I think, yeah, and then they ended up getting a lot of buffs for individual units. And look now, they have to get nerfs to their individual units because they're too good. I think, yeah, probably giving like armor and then half the MR would be really, really nice to just have a way to have more comps counterplay them. I think so. What is it now? 60 armor, 30 MR would probably be like reasonable in my opinion. I don't see that much of a problem, and then you'll have a lot more comps end up going up into the late game. I think it'd be nice. Anyways, that's just my general thoughts about nobles. I think they're still probably gonna be too strong, and probably the comp you want to go for if you high roll to get to like top 2. But we'll see. I'm probably gonna play a little bit more shapeshifter demons just to see how the power of like Gnar, Morgana. This kind of makes me laugh. Does we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it.